Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Squawk, the second episode, week one reactions. Chad and I, we were in Vegas for this game, and it was bananas. And I just wanted to say that it was really great having fans back.
Yeah.
Really great. It's just like you could feel the energy in the place. It was, and where we were sitting, we were sitting at the Mandalay Bay MGM Sportsbook, and we were watching it from there. And it was just nice to feel the energy again. Football's back, and it feels like, and it's refreshing. Unfortunately, it's not the outcome we wanted. So the game ends up 34-27 with the Raiders winning in overtime after a absolutely bonkers Monday night game. I think the general consensus on ESPN is that it's the game of the year already, which seems like impossible because, we have 250 more football games to play or whatever it ends up being.
Yeah.
I just wanted to get your thoughts on it real quick. We'll start with you, Brad. What did you like about the game? What were some of the things that you think that the Ravens could improve on? And how do you think injuries affected this game? We had a fourth string running back break off for a 35-yard touchdown, but is there anything that stood out to you the most when it comes to how the Ravens played on Monday night?
The running back play. Like we talked about last week, we knew that we had J.K. Dobbins out with an injury. Then after our podcast later on in the week, we lose Gus Edwards and Marcus Peters. Not that he's a running back or anything, but we did lose both them on back-to-back plays through the week. Ended up having to pick up Le'Veon Bell, Devontae Freeman, and Latavius Murray. And I was honestly, I'm happy that they kept Tyson as the starting back. He made it all the way through the preseason, and they gave him the start, and the man showed up. So that, to me, just the way that he played and the way that Latavius Murray was able to come in and make his mark with getting a nice 8-yard touchdown was the key points for me coming to the game. That I liked. With Marcus Peters out, we saw some exposed areas in our defense for sure. We felt him being out, and we'll get into that, talking about that. But when it comes down to me really liking something, I liked what we were able to do with our running back. So that was a big question. I feel like we have that figured out, and I'm excited to see what they're going to do the rest of the year.
Yeah, I also enjoyed Tyson Williams' play. We talked about him on the last pod and how he was sort of thrust into this situation that the average fourth string running back probably doesn't get thrust into. But with that being said, his 35-yard run on that 4th and 1, it's that step that he had to beat the safety was just absolutely unbelievable. And then here's a name that came up, Sammy Watkins. He had a deep 49-yard pass in the fourth quarter. If he just goes to the outside on that, we're talking about Sammy Watkins having over 100 yards receiving and a touchdown catch. I thought he played great.
Sure. He did play good.
Yeah, I was impressed with that aspect of it. But we got to get into, I think the big thing that we need to get into that we talked to last time that was pretty apparent in the passing game was, is this passing game more efficient than it was last year? Chad, that was the big thing that he harked on in the previous podcast. Chad, did you see any evidence that the passing game was more efficient from the Ravens, or are we just really missing Rashad Bateman in the lineup?
Yeah, I think it's hard to. I don't think we saw what the Ravens are hoping to build throughout the year because we still don't have Bateman. We're missing our number one running back, who was supposedly going to be a huge factor in our passing game. And I just think our O-line play I think we need to figure that out as well to help get Lamar a little bit more clean. so he can actually get. He was 19 of 30 for 235 yards and that awesome touchdown to Hollywood on that scramble. So I don't think we saw what the Ravens are hoping for, and I think it's because we're still missing the pieces, and we definitely need to figure out our O-line play to help with that, because I feel like Lamar was under pressure a lot. And
Pocket definitely was falling on him.
Yeah, it seemed like from the right side, right? And I don't know whether that's a product of, because I guess there's two ways you could look at that, right? You could look at that and say, okay, well, the Ravens, they obviously have an offensive line problem. Another way you could look at it is Max Crosby is a beast for Las Vegas, right? We're watching him on television. He looked juiced up the whole game. He's trying to get the crowd involved in it. He knows that he can create a pass rush. It's week 1. He's fresh. Like, he looked like he was ready for this game. Yeah. And, part of this is they're in Vegas. It's their season opener in a brand new stadium. Max Crosby brought the juice.
He did. And
that's another way you could look at it too. But I do think that there were times there with the offensive line, it just seemed like there was no time for Lamar to throw the ball.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's a product of not having the whole offensive line play, like the starting lineup for majority of the training camp. So I think it's going to take some time for the continuity to build. But I don't know I don't think I mentioned it in the last podcast, but I noticed Villanueva looking pretty slow in the preseason practice I watched. Granted, he was going up against Owe, who is a freak, but it kind of, watching the game, I was kind of like, I think I brought it up to you, Ben, or watching it. I was like, Villanueva, he just looks, he's huge, which is awesome. Like, that's a big deal, but he's an older guy. I feel like he's lost a step, and I think that's going to, and there's a reason why the Steelers let him go. And I feel like we saw that this week.
And it seemed really apparent too, because when you watch the pocket collapse, it collapsed from the outside, right?
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't a lot of the times when Lamar felt that pressure, it was usually coming from one side of the line or the other. And because I didn't think Ronnie Staley played all that great on Monday night either. There were moments, and I think that's just him trying to work his way back from an injury. I'm not concerned about it.
No, absolutely.
But the interior of the line, I thought, played pretty well, all things considered, like as far as blocking their guys. But yeah, I think Antonio Villanueva, that might be, but I don't want to overreact to something that goes on in week 1. They could make adjustments.
They could, yeah. Like I said, it's the first game of them, those starting 5 playing together. And then losing Ty Phillips doesn't help. I don't know if you guys saw that.
Yeah, I know. Just chalk it up to another loss. It's just brutal. This injury list is just absolutely insane at this point. Let's talk about Lamar. Let's talk about Lamar a little bit, because the offensive line. I know we can pick it apart a little bit, but I think the line's okay with the exception of the ends, and I think they just need more continuity with that. And I hope that that's just a week 1 hiccup. It happens.
You're literally dealing with a freak. You were just dealing with a freak, and that's how people. Every time they went and played Houston, any other year they had to deal with JJ Watt. That's how people felt. So I feel like we just we got that taste of playing somebody like that caliber.
Well,
absolutely.
It's only his second year, but that dude was a freaking beast. So.
Well, we got to deal with TJ Watt twice a year, and then we got to deal with Myles Garrett and Clowney twice a year. So
true.
Crosby is probably one of the least of our worries, and he made us look pretty bad. So
absolutely. That's an interesting thing. We're going to be talking about that more as the season goes on, because I do think that's a legitimate concern. The offensive line is like the unsung heroes of a football team. We're going to be paying close attention to them, but I wanted to get into Lamar. So ESPN actually has a very discouraging. I made a observation about ESPN that has me concerned as a Lamar fan. I'm going to read this stat line to you, Brad, and I want you to tell me what is missing from this. Does that sound like a fair deal here? Because you're going to know immediately as soon as I say it. All right. So for my man, Lamar Jackson, give me 1 second. Sorry, my computer hiccuped on me. So here's the stat line for Lamar Jackson. Here's the box score. 19 for 30, as we mentioned before. So, like 63% of his passes, something like that. 235 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions, 3 sacks, a QBR of 57.7, but a rating of 98.6. That's passer rating. What's missing from that stat line that was pretty important to the outcome of the game?
His running, boy.
How about the 2 fumbles?
And the 2
How about
fumbles,
the 2 fumbles that ended up costing the entire game? And that's kind of disturbing because for the past couple of years, I've been telling people, well, look at his passer rating. Like it's always up high and it's in the 90s and the hundreds sometimes. But it doesn't tell the whole story. Those 2 fumbles, I mean, they can't happen, right? Like
no, they definitely can't happen. But the fact that they happen at the worst time is really the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
The one that happened about 11 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and that was really the worst one because that turned around and gave them I think they scored 17 points in the fourth quarter. And they went down and they scored their first touchdown of that quarter off of that fumble. They scored a touchdown off of both fumbles, to be honest, but that one was absolutely his fault. He was on the scramble. He wasn't protecting the ball. The second one, he still wasn't protecting the ball, but I mean, the pocket was collapsing behind him. He had no protection. Nassib he got great pressure and just stripped the ball from him from behind. So I mean, it's tough. He does have trouble with fumbles in the past. But 2 lost fumbles in the game is not good. Not good at all. But, I mean, all around, he didn't play that bad. He had a couple of missed opportunities. One big missed opportunity, in my eyes, is, I mean, Chad touched on JK being in the passing game and questioning whether or not running backs are going to be doing good. Tyson Williams was 3 for 4 on receiving. And for 29 yards, which is actually pretty good. But he had an opportunity to be 4 for 4, but when he was out on the right side in the flats, Lamar completely missed him for a first down, which would have allowed us to keep driving. Instead, we had to kick a field goal in the, I believe it was third quarter.
Yeah, but I remember that play. He's wide open on the right side, and he throws it too far, it was just out of his reach.
And he wasn't even being rushed, he just didn't take the time to throw it. I mean, it was just it looked like he thought it was going to be an easy passing catch, and he just completely missed his mark. But there's a bunch of different plays where he could have hit somebody, but I'm not too stressed about it. I mean, things happen. It was a big focal point on the game, but it's Lamar. I feel like Lamar can bounce back and do damage next week. I mean, usually when he comes off of a game where he believes that he's at fault, he did bad, he turns around and exposes the defense next week. So I'm fine. I'm accepting the loss. I'm not going to put it completely on Lamar because our defense didn't step up either. And the man still, with 235 yards, rushed for another 86. So
yeah, isn't that incredible? Like he had, again, he's such an interesting player to watch because there are times where, on one drive, he breaks off for like a 35-yard run, and you're just like, that was the most amazing thing that I've ever seen. Like the touchdown that he had to Hollywood Brown, that throw and how he escaped pressure and how he got away from the defensive end. He just kind of like squeezes into that gap. He runs out wide. And I'm thinking to myself, like, Aaron Rodgers was in a very similar situation in the NFC Championship game. And everyone gave him crap because he rolled out and he tried to make a play happen. instead of running it into the end zone. And Chad, I know that you heard this. Like when I saw him sneak out, I'm in the casino and all you hear is run, run, Lamar, run, get in there. Right. And I'm like, because I am so enamored by the way that he runs the ball. And then he throws a bullet in the back of the end zone to Marquise Brown. Yep. And you're just like, yeah, I mean, that's the upside, right? Like he had a run where it's set up for the go-ahead field goal to make it 27-24. And then, you know, he goes into overtime and then it's a fumble and the game ends. And it's like, dang, just, you know, holding onto the ball has always been an issue for him since even I think like 2019, it was an issue. It's just the ball went out of bounds, so you didn't notice it as much. I wanted to go back to efficiency though. Chad, in your eyes, does Rashad Bateman make this offense more efficient? If he's out there, what does the offense look like? Because I saw some things schematically I really liked, but there were a lot of times where I was like, gosh, it would be really nice if we had our first round receiver in there.
Yeah. No, I mean, it just adds another playmaker on the field, and why would that not make it more efficient, you know? So once we get him in there, I feel like, they were shutting down Mark Andrews, Lamar's number one target. So it was Sammy Watkins and Hollywood the whole game. So if we had that extra piece in there and Bateman lives up to the expectations, I think this is a very potent, efficient passing game. And I think the upgrade from I think it was very obvious to upgrade Sammy Watkins offers over Willie Snead. I mean, Sammy Watkins, 4 for 96. Not that Willie Snead didn't play well for us, but Sammy Watkins is just a different athlete. And we saw a little bit of that, but without Bateman in there and without JK, I think it's going to take a couple weeks to actually see that. But it was promising seeing Tyson Williams catching the ball out of the backfield, though. They did use him that way, so that was cool to see.
And, you know, I forgot to bring that up in the previous pod. I was so enamored by his running stats. Even in the preseason, he was catching balls out of the backfield and making plays from it. So I think they're going to use that more. I will say with Mark Andrews, they are making adjustments in their offense that I really like. They're almost using Mark Andrews as like there was a play in the first quarter. There was like 7 minutes, 50 seconds left in the first quarter. It's a 3rd and 6. And the play is, you know, you've got Sammy Watkins and then Mark Andrews lined up on the inside. They've got 3 defenders over there. When Mark Andrews just cuts up the field, he takes 2 defenders with him because Vegas is probably thinking, all right, that's his number one target. Yeah, let's isolate him. And then what happens? Sammy Watkins hits a curl route underneath, creates separation, and Lamar made a quick throw under pressure, 13 yard. Or I don't think it was. Yeah, they got the first down. They got the first down off of that pass, a quick pass. Lamar's under pressure, and Mark Andrews is taking those guys further up the field. I like that. I actually don't mind if he maybe catches the ball a little bit less this year, but draws attention away from some of these wide receivers we have. I like that wrinkle in the offense. I thought that was a really interesting play.
Yeah. No, that's definitely if he can be more of a decoy and you definitely got to take advantage of that because they're going to double team him. He's the biggest threat in the passing game. So yeah. Defense they're gonna put that safety over the top of him, but then that's the problem, especially when we have Bateman in there, because then that leaves Hollywood 1-on-1, that leaves Sammy 1-on-1, that leaves Bateman 1-on-1. So it's gonna. I'm looking forward to it when we get Bateman back.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I personally, I would like to see them use with that curl route that you're talking about with Sammy Watkins. I'd like to see them use Andrews in that curl route. The dude's a big body. Let him use it. Let him curl and throw the ball on the outside away from a defender and let him catch the ball. We got to use it. He's our Travis Kelce. He's our Waller. You see how many times they get targeted. Waller got targeted 19 times yesterday or Monday.
Mm-hmm.
Like I mean, I know that he's getting covered, but we got to make sure that we're getting him open using our receivers, not using him to get our receivers open. Because when it comes down to it, he is our best receiver.
Right.
You know
Yeah.
what I'm
Well,
saying?
and I think
We
too,
have
it
to get
just
him involved.
provides like, it's good to have a situation where you can use a player, you know, even if he
To
is
get
the best
somebody else
receiver or
open.
not, if you can use him to create, because the one thing that this offense sorely lacks is receivers who can consistently separate from man coverage. I mean, I've said this before, and I felt bad because I'm talking to Chad during the game. Whenever Hollywood Brown made a catch, I was like, yeah, they were in zone coverage.
Zone coverage, yeah.
Right.
They're in zone coverage. It's one thing if you, and I think that's where Rashad Bateman, I think he's much better man to man. And I actually think Mark Andrews is pretty decent in man coverage too. He is. You're right, Brad. He's a big body. He's got decent hands. He had a lot of drops last year. But I like having those wrinkles in your offense because it doesn't seem stale anymore.
Yeah.
The one thing that I would say regarding Lamar, and this is something that I may be blowing this a little bit out of proportion, but every time he goes back to the ball, I always have this internal clock in my head. And they say that, you know, quarterbacks are supposed to have this too, an internal clock of when you need to release the ball.
Yes.
And there are a lot of times where that internal clock for Lamar, the ball doesn't come out when it should. Yeah. And there's a couple reasons for that. I think the biggest reason is I don't think anyone's open downfield. I just don't think there's enough separation. And I think when Lamar goes through his reads and he sees that, he now has to make a decision that no other quarterback in the league really has to make. Mm-hmm. Because for other quarterbacks, it's, well, I'm throwing this ball. I'm throwing it because I can't run out of here. I can't get loose. I have to throw this ball somewhere, mm-hmm. right? With Lamar, there's that hesitation where it's like, oh, should I stay in the pocket and throw, or should I take off and try and get a first down? And no other quarterback, I think, has that type of hesitation. Yeah. And I think it affects the offense.
I see what you're saying.
What do you think? What do you think about that, though, Brad? Because again, it's something that like I just see Tom Brady execute, and he's been in the league for 20 years. But you can look at other quarterbacks. Matt Stafford does the same thing.
Yeah.
There's just a hitch.
It's a different caliber quarterback. I mean, he needs to release the ball and trust his passing. He is a quarterback. Everybody, when they talk about the Ravens, I get people all the time laughing at us. It's okay. Your running backs went down, but your number one running back's still there. Talking about Lamar Jackson, which is a fact when it comes down to rushing. The man is our number one running back. I hate to say it, but it is. It is what it is. But the fact of the matter is, he also is a quarterback. And I feel like watching the film for the Cleveland Browns and KC, you got two quarterbacks that are 100% focused on throwing the ball first. And they are able to, even if their players are being covered, throw them open. And they're getting rid of the ball so quick. And as soon as their receiver is making that first move, whether or not they look open, they're throwing the ball to where only they can get it. And I feel like Lamar needs to start trusting himself a little bit more and making those throws. And I feel like that's going to change the talk about him if he's able to hit those passes rather than just hitting somebody that's wide open.
Yeah. And it goes back to efficiency, right? Like, how many times do we see he can make any throw on the field? And I just feel like there's that moment of hesitation where he's like, well, shit, the pocket's collapsing around me. Like, maybe I should just bail out of here. And it's most of the time, it's not necessarily a bad thing. But it's just something that other quarterbacks don't have. And maybe that does affect the offense. I don't really know.
You get a collapse and you get 30-yard rush out of it. I'll also take it. Yeah, I'll take it. I'm not hating on Lamar. I love Lamar Jackson. I love what he's doing for us. Like I said, he got 86 yards, 235. And a touchdown. Like, I mean, he's doing what he needs to do, but as a passer, I feel like there could be a lot more.
Yeah. Chad, what do you think?
I see what your argument is. Is his knowing he has that rushing ability in the back of his head, is that limiting where his passing could go? And that's only something that Lamar can answer, but I think it's a possibility that could be an issue. But I also think only having Andrews as that, 50-50 jump ball type guy also limits that option as well. So
Right.
I think seeing Bateman is really going to, I feel like that's having those two guys potentially, if Bateman lives up to what we expect. I think we can see that evolution of his passing game, the more trust,
Absolutely.
I think he can do it. And I think he has done it. He had MVP career passing, and obviously his rushing stats helped that as well, but he had 34 passing touchdowns, 6 interceptions his MVP year. And there was plenty of jump ball type. The one that sticks out, like one of my favorite touchdown passes was, I think it was the Cleveland game, the second Cleveland game of the year, his MVP season. And it was we were at Cleveland, and we scored 2 touchdowns within like 30 seconds before the half. And that touchdown pass where he is getting draped on his legs, like it looks like he's about to hyperextend his leg, like real awkward when he throws it into the back of the end zone. And Mark Andrews is able to, make an incredible adjustment in the air and grab the ball. But I think that's a good example of how he can and he does do that.
Right.
So I think it's more.
He does have the ability, 100%.
Oh yeah, I think it will come in time. But yeah, like you said, and maybe
here's another thing too. There's no continuity. He didn't play with any of these guys in the preseason.
Yeah,
right.
Except for Except for
they make a big deal about him, like, he met with his receivers in Arizona and they were running through routes, and it's like, yeah, but it's not the same as a sanctioned NFL preseason. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like, cool. Yeah. They played a pickup game at a park.
Yeah.
It's not really. It doesn't really give me the juice that when you see it on the field, it's like, okay, yeah, it looks like they practiced by playing pickup in a park. Even the Hollywood Brown throw, the touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
I saw some of this last year. The biggest example was the Eagles game, where he made the Eagles game from last season. He runs to the right. He runs to the right side. He's flushed out. The route basically breaks down because he's been holding on to the ball for like 7-8 seconds. And he just waits for somebody to get open and then sort of side slings it to Mark Andrews. And it goes beautiful play. But it makes me wonder, it's sort of, can you rely on that consistently in the end zone and the red zone with the ball not being intercepted one of those times, right? Like I said, we give Aaron Rodgers so much crap for throwing that pick in the NFC Championship game, and it was kind of sort of the same play. So I don't know. I agree. I love watching this guy. I just really think his creativity and the way that he just finds a way to get yardage is something that I just have not seen before. I guess Michael Vick is an example, and it's an obvious comparison. That's really it. Cam Newton was a running quarterback, but he liked to put shoulders into people. Yeah, Cam Newton was so physical. It's like it's not the same.
No.
But we have. I almost thought that maybe we should have ran him more. I think he had 10 carries this game. And a lot of those were just scrambles out of the pocket. Yeah. I don't mind having designed runs for him at this point, but I could be totally off base with this. Maybe he does need to advance in his passing.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does. But it utilizes ability to run. Absolutely. But most of those rushes, those big gainers, they came because he had to scramble, get out of pocket because it was collapsing. Yeah. And that does suck. Can I add one question for you guys, since we're on receivers? I don't know if you guys saw or not, but they're trying to get Josh Gordon reinstated into the league. What would you guys think about if?
Are they legalizing weed? If they're legalizing weed in the NFL, if they're not going to test for it anymore, great. But this poor guy, man, he's just been run through the ringer over this kind of thing.
No, absolutely. But is he somebody that could give us that bigger body as a receiver. Somebody that's already known. He's still, I mean, he's not young. He's 30 years old, and he hasn't played since 2019. But in 2019, he played on 2 different teams and still posted 430 yards, only 1 touchdown, but still, you know what I mean? Like, he seems like, if we've picked up older players in the past. I feel like if there's a possibility to get him and get him cheap, why not throw him on a team?
Yeah.
We did it with Des Bryant last year, and he's better than Des Bryant.
I'd be interested to see that.
I just think Josh Gordon he's not reliable, because they did legalize weed. That's why he was reinstated last year. But then I forget what happened last year, why he got suspended again. I think it was something totally different. Or he quit on his own. I forget.
I think that was it. I think it had to do with it.
He quit and then he checked himself into rehab or something, or I forget what it was. It's just, I mean, the idea is cool, but I just don't think he's reliable enough to. I mean, like you said, if it's cheap, and I don't know, I don't think it's going to work out if it does happen. But he had his good year, man. That was a hell of a year he had.
I just seen it, and I'm not gonna lie. One of my fantasies, I picked him up just because. So I don't know. We'll see what happens with him.
Take a flyer. Who knows? Do you want to talk about defense? Let's talk about defense real quick.
Sure.
Marcus Peters was not there. It was pretty apparent. However, I actually kind of liked what I saw from the defense. Mm-hmm. We got sacks. We got guys. Anthony Averett got an I know it was kind of it was one of the, actually, if I'm being honest, it's one of the goofiest interceptions I've ever seen, right? Mm-hmm. Like Derek Carr throws it. It bounces off of, I think it was Deshaun Elliott. It just hits him right in the forehead, and it bounces away, and Anthony Averett's just there to catch it out of the sky. But I know that Darren Waller had 10 catches. I know he had a big night. But can we just say, and Chad, I'm going to get your opinion on this first. I'm going to talk to both of you about it, but Darren Waller is going to get 10 catches regardless of how many people or how good your a corner you're going to put on him. And there were some times where Marlon Humphrey's in there and he's breaking up passes. Mm-hmm. We had sacks from people. Did you think that the defense could have improved from Monday, or do you think that we're just getting beat by a physical freak when it comes to catching the football?
I'd say the biggest. Well, there was one big play that Waller had. That I think it was the touchdown in the fourth quarter. But I thought our defense played pretty well. The 3 plays that stick out to me is the really long, the 3 long passes. The one to Ruggs, the one to Edwards that got him down to the 1 before the interception that we thought was a touchdown. That was against Wesley, who was probably playing because Marcus Peters isn't playing. And then the touchdown, game-winning touchdown, where I guess it was I think it was an all-out blitz, no safety help, and Marlon got beat.
All 3 of those were.
So it's besides those 3 plays, our defense was good. Like you said, Waller, Waller's a freak of nature, and you're not going to, unless you're Bill Belichick, because he shut him down last year. Unless you have that kind of mind back in our defense, and that's not saying that Belichick's better than our defense coordinator. Or it's different. It's different. Different minds doing different things. So,
right.
I think Belichick just likes to shut down the tight end. I think that's his main thing, and then he works around that. So, yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense because he uses them in his offenses all the time. Yeah. When he had Aaron Hernandez and Gronk, we saw what that was like. Brad, what did you think, man? Did you think the defense was is there anything that they could have improved upon? I can't really find it.
It's first game. Everything that we're talking about is all first game, so it's tough to really talk on just one game so far. But I'd say we gotta step up when it comes to the pass rush. We rushed and rushed and rushed. We blitzed and blitzed and blitzed, and we only got 3 sacks. We literally, we had to have blitzed over half the time on defense, and we barely got. He was free back there to do whatever he wanted. We just weren't able to. We weren't able to beat their offensive linemen, or just we weren't sending the right people. But he was back there doing pretty much whatever he wanted. He threw for 435 yards. I know that we were down Marcus Peters. We were hoping that Jimmy Smith was going to be back. He ended up being inactive, so we had multiple people that were playing that probably wouldn't have been playing at yesterday. But that's part of the game. You know what I mean? People go down. It's the next man up scenario. But yeah, man. I mean, it's tough. We were definitely getting worked when it comes to receivers. Missed tackles. What Chad was talking about, the Waller touchdown. We were, what was it? It was 1st and goal from the 20 is how that started off because of I believe a holding call.
Mm-hmm.
So that Waller touchdown. I mean, if I want to say it was Elliott that or no, sorry, it was Clark that missed the tackle right there. It was like the 3-yard line, and he just spun right out of his tackle and ended up getting a touchdown out of that deal. I mean, had he got him down at the third yard line, we had another play. You know what I mean? You live for another play and hopefully not get a touchdown, get a field goal out of that situation. But I mean, Averett stepped up. He did. I think he had like 6 tackles. He did have the pick. And funny with that pick, you said it was the weirdest pick. Not only was it a weird pick, but it also went through Willie Snead's hands. He was actually the receiver whose hands that went through, which is pretty funny. So that would have really sucked that he scored the winning touchdown on this.
Yeah, was that his only target?
I don't
remember seeing him on the field that much.
But yeah, that was the first time that I had actually seen him.
Yeah. That is funny. That is funny.
Yeah, it is tough. I mean, it's hard to ask for somebody to make up for a top 10 corner in the league. So
yeah,
it's just we let up a lot of yards. It was over 500 yards last night. Sorry, I keep saying last night, but Monday night. But again, it's just the first game. I hope we have a really, really great team coming up on Sunday night, and we're gonna have to step it up.
Oh yeah, we'll get into that. Chad, what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say what changed, because it seemed like before the fourth quarter, I almost called them Oakland. The Raiders. The Raiders
do that
offense,
all the time.
Yeah, the Raiders offense weren't doing much.
Yeah, they weren't. I mean, first quarter we shut them out. Third quarter we shut them out. We come in hot. It's just down the road, and like obviously the 15 to 30 minutes of the halves, we're just worn out, man.
Yeah, I guess it's because
we just couldn't run with them anymore. So it literally is what it was. We were just worn out, and then obviously the fumble was a big deal too. The fumble gave them that excitement and put it all the momentum on their side, and they went down and scored that touchdown.
I wonder if having the older like pass rushers kind of, I mean, yeah, like I said, like the pass rush was decent the first, 2/3 of the game.
Yeah,
but I feel
I thought so too.
It seems like our defense tired out.
Yeah,
it's kind of what it seemed like, and I wonder if that's partially because of our old defensive line. You got Campbell, Brandon Williams is a little bit younger, but he's still up there. You got Houston and you got McPhee as your lead pass rushers. So I wonder if that's I don't know. I just wanted to bring it up just to see what your all's thoughts were, because
I mean, part of it probably too is it's week 1 and they're playing in a stadium where there's crowd noise again.
Mm-hmm.
There's crowd noise again. You've gone a year without hearing it, and now with all of those fans back in that stadium in particular, on that particular night, I'm sure that we obviously weren't in the stadium when we were there, but I'll tell you right now, when Anthony Averett got that pick in the end zone, I realized how quiet it could have been, right?
Yeah.
Like, because the entire game, they are just like, I mean, Max Crosby's amping him up. It was loud in that stadium.
Yeah.
It looked loud. It felt loud. Maybe that had something to do with it. You're playing, especially in overtime, when you have all that that pressure built up to close the game out. I can't tell you how good it is to have fans back. I think that has a big role to play. And I think we're going to see the same thing next week when we're in Baltimore and Kansas City comes there. We're a loud fucking stadium too, considering we're not exactly, our stadium isn't built acoustically the way places like Seattle or the Arrowhead are, but we get rowdy in the Roost.
That's right.
That's just how we always do. So let's talk about next week real quick.
Too. I'll be there. Hell yeah.
You're going to be there. You're going to be there next week, Brad.
Hell yeah. We're going to be there Sunday night.
Nice.
You know what you should do? Record. Are you pre-gaming before?
I pre-game everywhere I go.
That's it. That's in the YouTube trailer. They're gonna be like, "What's Squawk about?" Here's the clip. I pregame everywhere I go. That's it. That's going in. That's in the teaser. Yeah, good. I'm glad you're there. So, let's talk about this game real quick because I watched the Browns Kansas City game. 2 reasons. Right. One, I'm watching Kansas City, and then obviously the Browns are in our division. I don't like Kansas City's offensive line.
You don't?
They're not. It's not that I don't like them. I think they're talented. I know what Orlando Brown Jr. can do. I know all these things. They just haven't had time to gel cohesively. If you're going to play Kansas City this year, better to play them early in the year with that O-line than any other time before they get continuity. Am I crazy, or do you think it's not going to be that much of a difference, Chad?
They did start out slow against Cleveland, big time. But when you have 15 throwing the ball to 87 and 11, they can overcome any kind of bad offense, except for the Super Bowl against that Tampa Bay pass rush. But yeah, so I am a little worried that it won't matter that much just because I'm not too fond of our pass rush right now.
Yeah.
If we had a Tampa Bay pass rush, I'd say, yeah, I see what you're saying. But with our, let's say moderate pass rush, and even if they do have the continuity issue with their offensive line like we're having, 15's he's a great elite player, so he's gonna make shit happen. And he did that against Cleveland. But they'd
have a tendency to do that, right? Yeah. Kansas City, that's why betting on them sucked last year, because they start these games super slow. If you actually watch Kansas City play, you think that their offense is super explosive, and it is, but it's usually towards the end of the game. They never really start fast. There were a lot of games last year where I was just like, why is the score 14-14 going into the second half if Kansas City's out here?
Yeah,
I could be crazy, but I don't know. If you got to find a flaw somewhere, right? Like you can't just look at a team and be like, well, they're unbeatable, because I don't know. I think if we generated pressure like we did last night, let's just see how Monday. I'm doing the same thing, Brad. If we can figure out a way to get through. I liked Odafe Owe had a sack the other night. I mean, if you can get that guy around the edge, let's put Patrick Mahomes under some pressure. I think you can do that.
Yeah.
Brad, I wanted to talk to you since you're actually going to the game. What do you think is a reasonable score prediction for this? Do you see the Ravens winning? I know when we did our season's predictions, we said we had this as a loss. Is there any avenue at all where you think we could possibly have an upset in Baltimore?
I don't. I hate to say it. I don't. I know we don't have any. We're not supposed to talk bad about Ravens. I'm not talking bad about Ravens. I'm saying what I honestly feel, and I feel like it's gonna be. I think it's just gonna be a blowout. I really do. I mean, Cleveland's defense is good. Our defense is good, but we are hurt all over. I mean, we had to bring in 4 cornerbacks this week to be worked out. Like, we might be seeing some new faces come Sunday during that game.
Yeah, do you want to talk about that real quick? Because you found the article for that. Who are we considering for corners?
So I don't know much about him. It was just an article that I had pulled up. But one guy's Buster Scrimes. He's played for the Browns, Jets, Bears, and he's a 10-year veteran. He's had 9 interceptions over his career, 573 tackles. Darrell Worley, he's 5-year veteran, 5 interceptions, 265. And a couple of newer guys, one of them in which actually has never even played in the NFL. He's played in the CFL, Winston Rose. So it's not really much that I can say about him. It's just, I just know there could be some new faces come Sunday. And at least 3 of them have played in the NFL, and 2 of them have some pretty good stats, especially when it comes to takeaways. You got an interception every year with Worley, who's played for Carolina and the Raiders, and also Dallas. So,
right.
I mean, we'll see what happens.
I wonder if they saw something within the game that's causing them to, work out these guys now versus doing it last week when we lost Peters before the game. I guess they were hoping that the younger guys would step up, but it didn't really work out. And they're bringing it. Is that a way to look at it, or did they just not have enough time with having to bring all those running backs in last week?
No, I feel like we were exposed, dude. I mean, they threw for 453 yards on us on Monday. Yeah. We were definitely exposed, and it needs to be fixed sooner rather than later, especially if you're bringing in Tyreek Hill, who alone on Sunday was 3 yards away from 200 yards.
I'm dreading that. Who are we matching up against him? Is that going to be Anthony Averett, or is that's got to be? It's got to be Marlon Humphrey.
It's got to be Humphrey.
Dude, you got to put Humphreys, and I hope to God that Jimmy Smith is able to come in so he can at least be a big body on Kelsey. You know what I mean? If you're gonna, you gotta follow people like them. You know what I mean? And the one thing that we really didn't do, which really upset me on Monday, is we never tried to even bump Waller off the line. You got 5 yards to put hands on this man. Somebody that's going to be rushing and a big body bump this dude, knock him off his route. So that at least gives you a little bit more time to get to the quarterback or disrupt their entire scheme. I mean, something has to be done. And Kelsey is just is Waller, but better.
Is that a linebacker thing? Because I guess I could say, we didn't have LJ Ford out there. He's also been hurt. If you're keeping score at home, because how can you possibly remember all the names that the Ravens have lost this year?
Yeah.
Malik Harrison was starting in at linebacker.
Yeah.
Maybe that, and he's relatively new, right? I think they drafted him last year.
They drafted him with Queen.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and I think they got him in the 3rd or the 4th round, the 3rd or the 4th round, I think.
Third round.
I think he might have been the 3rd round. Yeah, I think that's right. So I don't know, like if LJ Fort's in there, does that look different? I'm not sure. But I think that had a role to play in it. Yeah. I have another thing about the Kansas City game real quick. Is the Honey Badger going to play? He did not play last week.
I see. He was supposed to. I think he was eligible to have played last week, and they just sat him. So I think he actually will play this week.
You think he will?
Which,
okay, yeah.
And if he does, it makes that defense that much more. It makes it a dangerous defense. He's a great cornerback.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. All right. So what's the score for this week? It sounds like we're going 0-2.
No, 0-2 for sure. I'm gonna say they scored 34 and us in OT. I'm gonna say 42-17.
Chad?
After the way our defense collapsed against, the Raiders, Kansas City's way better. The Raiders have Waller, but the Raiders have a better version of Waller in Travis Kelce. And then they also have Tariq Hill. And then they also have number 15, the best player in the NFL. So, and I just don't, with the injuries, with Tamarcus Peters, LJ Fort, and our pass rush is still, I just don't think we have the power to our defensive matchup against them. I think they win that hands down 9 out of 10 times. So I'd say predictions I think it's gonna be more like that first game where the first game we lost against them at their home. I think it was like we scored a lot, but they scored a lot more. So I think it's gonna be a high scoring game. I'm gonna say Kansas City has 13 more points than us. So let's say 33-20.
Okay, so I was going to say 35-23. I think Justin Tucker gets a lot of field goals that probably should have been touchdowns. And then I think Patrick Mahomes it just seems to be every single, and it doesn't say much about Baltimore, right? What it says more about is Kansas City. I think Kansas City is one of those teams where, and it sounds stupid because you're supposed to be scoring touchdowns in football, but there are certain teams where maybe you can get away with having an amazing kicker like Justin Tucker that can save a game for you, but you got to be close in that game in order for that to be relevant.
Yep.
And this is a team where you can't walk away with field goals and feel good about it.
Yep.
Whenever I see a team kick a field goal against the Chiefs, I'm like, well, shit, that's not good. That's the game. And they're getting points on the board.
Yeah. Well, that's why Harbaugh did that. He basically went for every fourth down, that one matchup we had against them.
Yeah.
I think that was Mark Ingram's first year. Mark Ingram had 3 touchdowns that game, but we still lost. But yeah, we were going on it on fourth and short, we weren't kicking a field goal. We were going for it.
That's one of my biggest pet peeves of his.
Yeah, but
what, did he goes for it on fourth?
Dude, yeah, man. Because I hate this ifs and buts. You know what I mean? If my aunt had balls, she'd be my freaking uncle. You know what I mean? You can't. It is what it is. But if he would have kicked that freaking field goal at the end of the halftime, we would have been up by 2 scores going. I mean, actually, we would have only been up because they came down and kicked the field goal too. But we still would have been up those extra 3 points, and that would have carried on throughout the whole entire game.
Yeah.
Welcome to the analytics of football now. And the Ravens are an analytical team. They follow analytics, and analytics say you go for it on fourth. You got a better opportunity to do it. I don't know if that plays out though.
Yeah, 4th and 1, I guess so. Because we got the touchdown the first time, which was awesome. But you got the best kicker in the league. It's the end of the half. You kick the field goal. You get the points. You go into the half, possibly up 2 possessions. Not knowing whether or not the defense is going to hold. And I mean, granted, they did come down and kick an extra point as well. I mean, a field goal as well. So we would have only been up 7 at that point, but still up 7 or up 4 when you're going into halftime.
Right. Yeah. Right. I want to say something real quick before we sign out here, because we're coming up on our spot. Did any of you catch the Peyton Manning, Eli Manning commentary of the game?
I didn't.
I did not.
Okay. Highly recommend you check that out.
Yeah.
They actually, they have, and I wouldn't even, first off, both of them are hilarious, right? They just basically like rip on each other the entire game while also providing great commentary. But they also brought in like special guests, and they brought in Ray Lewis.
Did they?
So it's Peyton Manning, Ray Lewis, and Eli Manning, and they're sitting there and they're talking. And Peyton goes, Eli, do you have any, I could tell you a bunch of stories about Ray since he was in the conference, but like, do you have any special story about Ray Lewis? And he tells this story about how like Eli Manning was playing us, and he goes, 52's the mic. 52's the mic. And Ray Lewis goes, no, you're wrong. You're wrong, Eli. I ain't the mic. I'm not the mic. And then Eli's response is, oh, okay, I guess he's not the mic. It must be somebody else, right? It was hilarious, the stories that they were telling. And they were just going back and forth about their careers, and it was really great. It was really funny to watch. I highly recommend that you guys check out that commentary. I'm pretty sure it's got to be on YouTube. It has to be. Yeah. And you can watch their commentary on ESPN Plus, I guess, and then the actual broadcast is on ABC with Louis Riddick and all those guys for Monday night. All right, let's get out of here. Anything else before we wrap things up? I'm not freaking out, guys. It's just week 1.
It's just week 1. Absolutely.
Yeah. I think so too.
I think once we build continuity with the O-line and hopefully figure out, I don't know, man. I feel like we need I feel like we need to eventually trade for a pass rusher, but we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, we'll keep our eye on that.
But I have faith in Eric DaCosta. He'll figure it out, because he'll make some changes. I remember that one. What was that one year we started like 2-3 or and then we just like cleaned house. And
The 2-2, the MVP season, we started 2-2,
Oh, that's
and
right.
string off 12 straight.
That's when we found LJ Fort. That's when we found Josh Bynes and revamped that whole defense. So Eric DaCosta can figure it out. I have faith in that. So I'm not too worried. I just don't think they figure it out within a week.
No.
Against Kansas City.
Not against the best player in the entire league.
Yeah.
So.
We'll wait till week 3. I think week 3 is the Broncos, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know, they looked good on Monday too. So you hear that every single team in the AFC West won this week?
They did.
Yep. With the Raiders winning, the whole entire squad won it all. But also, since we were talking about it, I did look it up. Tyrone Matthews is scheduled to practice today, which means that as long as everything goes well, he will be playing against us on Sunday.
Yeah. Okay.
Which
good
is
for him. I'm glad he's healthy. I'm just unfortunate that he's going to be out there because maybe that's something you could capitalize on too. He's a baller. And if he's not in your lineup, you feel it, you know?
Yeah. Hopefully Jimmy is healthy.
The old honey badger.
That's right. All right, boys. It was great. Thank you for being on. We'll see you guys next week. And thanks for listening in to Flock Squawk. If you like our content, we're going to have some more stuff coming out. By all means, hit the like button and the subscribe button here, and we will see you all next week. Have a great rest of your day.
See you, fellas. Go Ravens, even though.
Go Ravens.
Caw-caw!